Recording in progress. Okay, we're here. Okay, so yeah, we got this snow situation going on, ice going on, and it's sounds like the plagues of Egypt might be traveling somewhere. Last week's Torah portion had we discussed last week. Last week's Torah portion um had had eight of the plagues. Sorry, had eight of the plagues. This week's Torah portion has the last two. So we have darkness, and we have the plague of the firstborn. That's the Torah portion. Yeah. So that's the Torah. That's the beginning of the Torah portion, and then it gets into a whole world of the actual Paschal, Pesach, Passover situation, from top to bottom. The whole thing that we know, almost all the verses or the things that we reference in the Seder are here. The mitzvah of giving of the actual Paschal lamb, putting aside the lamb that which was the god of the Egyptians, right? They worshipped the lamb, the sheep. It was one of their deities, and here we are. We have the famous idea where they were to go ahead and pick out the animal they were going to use as their sacrifice for this Paschal lamb, and they tied it to their bedpost. And here they have the Egyptians watching this. Like, what are you doing with that thing? And hey, guess what? We're going to slaughter it. Like, this is like a lot of symbolism going on, a lot of showing of faith and connection with Hashem. God says, do it. We're going to do it. The beginnings of that relationship that we have with Hashem, the creating of that relationship with God, it starts to begin over here. We get to see it. Obviously, it's in response to Hashem having gone so far as changing nature and going ahead and showing the Jewish people how far he's willing to go for them, go for us. Then we have the actual mitzvahs that are involved, all the details of the Pesach offering, of the Paschal lamb, of the Karban Pesach, as we call it. And then we go into two chapters, which are actually inside of our Tefillin, the two of the chapters. So two chapters that are in Tefillin we know are the Shema and the V'hayim Shemoah paragraphs of the first two chapters of Shema. And then we also have the other two chapters that are inside of our Tefillin, right? Our Tefillin has four sections on the head one, and they're all the same verses on the top and the bottom and the arm, but in the arm they're all in one compartment, and in the head it's divided into four compartments. And two of those chapters that are in there are actually in this week's Torah portion, the last two parts of the Torah portion. And the Torah portion ends off with a very unique mitzvah, where we go ahead and we call it a pidyon peter chamor, which is actually there's one of the only really not kosher animal that's involved with a mitzvah. When a person has a firstborn donkey, they have to go ahead and you're actually supposed to redeem that. That's one unique mitzvah. And the other unique mitzvah is when somebody actually has a firstborn male animal of the kosher style that's born. So they would go ahead, and that animal actually has a certain level of kedusha, a certain level of holiness or sanctity, and it needs to be redeemed. And there's a process where we redeem the firstborn, right? We redeem the firstborn child for an animal. Where nowadays we have a Kohen in the group. Nowadays, what would happen is when a person has a firstborn male child that is born, you're actually supposed to go through what we call a pidyon haben, a redemption of the son, and you redeem that child. You have to go to a Kohen, and it's more complicated. We get into more aspects of it later on in the Torah, but what's the concept? Why? Well, it just seems to make sense. The firstborns of the Egyptians were all killed, right? Well, that means that all the Jewish firstborns were spared from the firstborn plague that was taking place. So there needs to be some aspect of redemption, some aspect of reminder of that amazing thing, and they need to appreciate the fact that, hey, we should have been part of that. Mitchell and I, we talked a little bit about it at some point. I'm not prepared well enough to talk about it tonight to understand whether firstborn girls were passing away or not passing away. And how that works with them also fasting, because there's an idea to fast the day, the day leading up to Pesach, the day before Pesach, right? So that morning there's something called the fast of the firstborns, and that is some discussion. That girls should also be doing that because firstborn children were spared. So that's an interesting discussion to understand that a little better. But I am not prepared well enough to talk about that topic, and I don't want to say things that are not 100% correct or that I'm remembering from who knows when. So I don't want to talk about that tonight. What I do want to talk about, though, is two things. One thing is the fact that, as we know, that we call it the Haggadah, right? The Haggadah of Pesach was what we, our wonderful book that we use at the Pesach Seder. And the Haggadah is talking about telling, but it's based off a verse of Higadata levincha bayom hahu lemor, which is the idea of there's questions and answers of telling over the story. And when it talks about this redeeming of the firstborn, it says, Ki yishalcha bincha, when your child asks. So I thought it was something very interesting. I was meeting with some students this week, and I was working on trying to get them to ask questions. Right? I was like, guys, let's have a discussion. I don't want one-word answers. I would like to have a discussion over here. I'm going to bring up a topic, and we're going to have a question-answer dialogue over here. And it was interesting to try to get that out. And maybe as I was reading the verses of the Torah portion, I was like, it uses the language of when your child asks. I'm like, children still do a lot of asking. They might not ask us adults per se, but they definitely ask their phones, and they ask Google, and they ask Alexa, and they ask Siri, and they ask, right, AI, and they ask ChatGPT and Gemini, and so on and so forth, Claude and Perplexity, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of askings.
All of that was written well before the Gen Zers. It's all over. It's all over. Get it. It's all over.
But now we're getting to the point where you don't even have to ask because your phone knows what you're thinking, right? So I think it's something that really is amazing. Now, we have to work on, I think part of what the Torah is telling us is that we ourselves, we should be encouraging dialogue, certainly, 100%. And the fact that they're willing to ask, right? There's still questions that are happening. But part of that is that we need to have answers. We need to have answers, and answers that are intriguing, answers that seem truthful, answers that seem like we actually know what we're talking about. And the challenge for us is that we are not AI, and therefore we actually have to have studied, or we have to have listened or learned, right, to go ahead. And we don't, part of answering could be that we say we don't know yet, and we're going to research. That's a totally acceptable, appropriate answer. Let's research this together. But I think these are the Torah, when it says it, when it talks about these mitzvos that revolve around the Exodus, is really where the Torah itself says, when they ask, right, the four questions, right, or the four sons that come up in the Seder. Those four sons, 3 out of 4 are asking. One just doesn't know how to ask and needs to be introduced to the world of asking. But the other 3 are asking. Now, the way they ask, the format they ask with, right? That's a different discussion, and we can examine that, and that's for Seder discussion, and brisket and Seder and schmooze, whatever we'll get to, how we do that long distance, we'll figure that out, right? But it is intriguing to see what are the questions that they're actually asking, or are they asking questions? It's interesting to look at the language that the Haggadah has when it talks about those wonderful kiddos that are asking questions. But I just think it's an important piece. The Torah seems to speak it out in regards to the beginning of us, of our journey as we travel, as we become a nation. The beginning of our becoming a nation, it asks that question. It tells you your child's going to ask something, and here's the answer as to why we do certain things. The Torah gives us clear answers. Well, there was this experience in Egypt where they were subjugating us, and there was suffering that was happening, and there was challenge that was happening, and God with his mighty hand came along, and he did miracles for us, and he put himself out there. He changed his nature. He created the world in a certain way. He altered nature to work for us. And these kind of things are what the Torah is telling us to try to answer for those that are asking. And the last verse of the Torah portion, the last verse, I don't have a chumash with me. I wish I did. I thought I did, but I'm not in the right car for that. But it ends off as actually the mitzvah of tefillin. Says you shall place them upon between your eyes and upon your v'hayula totafos v'neinecha, right? You should put it between your eyes, right? That's the head tefillin, and it should be on your arm. And this is connected to the leaving of Egypt. It's connected to it. Okay, the arm I can understand. Okay, God, we always put God's outstretched arm, the strength of God's hand, right? And what's the head part? So arm is opposite the heart. That has to do with emotions. There's an deep emotional connection that's there. A sense of gratitude that we need to have to God for what he did for us, what he does for us. And then there's an intellectual piece, it seems. It's by our head, right? Up here. It's by our brains, the intellectual piece. And it's a very far distance between the brain and the heart. Very far. And we could spend almost our whole lives trying to bridge the gap of doing things that make sense, how that connects to our emotions or things that are emotional reactions that don't make any sense, right? To connect those two. And we get into some very deep stuff. Our soul is stored in our brain. The bottom of our soul that exists in this world is inside of our brain. And how we connect our soul to our emotions, right? So there's a lot going on there. Larry and I had the wonderful opportunity. Jason, I don't think we ever did it. I don't think we ever went through it, Jason. But a phenomenal. I think maybe I'm not sure, Mitch, if you're going through this now. Did you go through the Rabbi Kaplan book on tefillin?
Yes, I've been reading it.
You've been reading it, okay. So Rabbi Kaplan has a phenomenal book. It kind of stretches the very practical, what's going on, the different traditions about it, how to wrap, why we wrap, and then he gets into some deep, deep stuff.
It is wild how many different ways there are to wrap. And
right.
I just find that fascinating, right? You would figure, okay, if you're supposed to put it between your eyes and on your arms, then there should be some pretty stringent rules about how you're supposed to do it. And yet, no, as long as you get 7 around your arm, you're good.
Yeah, so exactly. And this is the beauty of it, where there's a tradition piece. There's what we call a Torah Shabbal Peh. There is a oral Torah that comes along with our Torah. In fact, I almost always use tefillin as one of the examples of how we understand that there must be an oral law that comes along with the written law. Because the Torah uses the word totafos. I don't know what totafot are. If you look inside the Torah, you're not going to find the word tefillin anywhere. It's not there. It's not there. It uses the code word of totafot, beinei necha. I don't know what a totafot is, okay? Totafot is seems like it was some kind of, crown or some kind of, almost like a headband that used to be worn. So it doesn't tell us what tefillin are supposed to look like. It doesn't tell us. It's not there. You have to go into the oral law, which was given along with the written law, to get the details. It needs to be square, and it needs to have 4 compartments in the head and 1 compartment on the arm, and it needs to be black. How do you know it needs to be black? And these are all beautiful things that are learned from the verses, but you need to know the rules of interpretation, or rules of extrapolation, how you extract that from the verses. So this is like, oh yeah, we've been putting on, they do archaeological digs and they find tefillin from way, way back. Obviously they're beaten up a little bit, but they're essentially, now we have these amazing, presses that can make the leather so much tighter than they used to have it, but they're essentially the exact same boxes. And it's amazing to have tradition of that. I didn't Google or look up, what's the oldest pair of tefillin that they have that exists in the world. But we're talking about thousands of years, 3,336 years of people wearing tefillin, right? And, that's a pretty impressive box to travel all those years. And we still been doing the same thing. And it's a part of the beautiful tradition that we have and part of the beautiful Torah that we have. And it's essential because it stems from this, the question, the answer, the giving it over from one generation to the next generation, people asking, people answering, creating dialogue. And that's what keeps things going, is to make sure there's a part of the Torah that remains oral and requires you to attach to the past generation so you can learn and so you can connect with that. And why our heritage and our tradition is so amazing is because we have that. We have that generational connection. We have the door to door that makes it so essential and so amazing. So I just, to talk a little bit about the film, we have, I don't know if either of you would like to share about it. I'm not sure who, I know two people here are definitely, tefillin is part of their lives. And I'm going to see a very special person next week. I'm going to see someone named Charlie Harari next week. And Charlie has an awesome tefillin program. Someone that commits to wear tefillin for 45 days straight. Obviously, you don't wear it on Shabbos, so it doesn't count Shabbos. But 45 days, and they will help somebody get a pair of tefillin. And once you wear it for 45 days, it kind of becomes a part of you. I would recommend not just doing it but to learn more about it. And if anybody who's currently on or is looking or listens to this, you should reach out, and we could certainly try to make that happen. Or if you'd like to learn more about tefillin, I'll give you, we can talk about the right resources to get it, and getting a full blown kosher, 100% kosher pair of tefillin is not necessarily so cheap. It's amazing that there's people out there that want to see people that want to help people do mitzvahs. And we're talking about hundreds, if not, getting borderline, 700, 800, 900, you can spend a lot more. For my kids, it's the type of thing, it's a, inside you actually have a, one of a kind piece of art because it's written by a scribe. So the scroll that's inside of someone's tefillin, that is handmade, that is made for you. And, people spend a lot of money on, handmade pieces of art, and one of a kinds out there. And then it's a lifetime investment. It's an amazing thing. And I've had mine since my bar mitzvah, and I don't think I'm trying to think if I ever missed a day. I really don't think I have. Even the days that I was really sick with my Crohn's and things like that, I think I, still put them on. I put them on in the mountains of Vermont, and I put them on in the mountains of Maine, and Decatur, Tennessee, and Iceland, and they've traveled the world with me, and they've had they're become part of my life. And anyone like to share a little bit what the tefillin means to you?
I'll tell you the program that
Just one second before Larry, are you okay with it being recorded?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, sure. No. I was just gonna kind of give a nod to the program that you turned me on to with Charlie, because my tefillin from my bar mitzvah, basically the parchment wasn't doing its thing. I guess over time it must have disintegrated or something along those lines. I mean, Rabbi, do you remember when they opened it up? I mean, I don't even know if there was anything still there. But they shipped it off. They inspected it to see if it was still kosher, if it was still, legit. And, and then I ended up getting a new set of tefillin. And it's interesting because they have this 45-day program, and I'm over a year strong. I mean, it's well over a year at this point that I've been following this practice. And the more I learn about it, the more special it becomes. For me, it's very, very simple. Because with, the boxes and the strap and the kosher, phylacteries, I feel bound to God by putting them on every day. Minus, Shabbat and holidays and things of that nature. And then I feel like, God is bound to me. So I'm bound to God, and God is bound to me. And the other thing that makes me feel really special about it is that outside of the mezuzah on my door in my house and all over my house, I feel like it protects my family. I feel like it protects me. I feel like it protects Judaism. Feel like it protects my community and our people. So those are some of the things that I feel connected to by, and I started out just like with the program, the 45-day program, and man, I tell you what, I just felt great doing it, and it just became kind of a habit. And now, I mean, like Rabbi said, I mean, I travel. I've traveled the world with him, and and I mean, it's the kind of thing where I call it my God bag. It's just like I take it with me if I can't do it before I leave the house in the morning. I take them with me to the office, and and I wrap before I start my day when I get to the office. I mean, so maybe there's a formula for doing it first thing in the morning outside of saying the Moda Ani and all that sort of thing. But but I definitely feel committed to getting it in, and I love doing it. I highly encourage anybody else to do it.
It's every time someone puts them on, I think I cracked this joke when we were talking about it, Larry. But remember, I was at a student in the school, that my rabbinical school that I was in, and he kept putting his tefillin on. He had these string bean arms, man. There was like nothing there, and one of the rabbis was like, your tefillin are falling off, like, and the rabbi's like, this is when you, like, you're supposed to show off your guns, like there's gotta be like a bump to put it on, man. So he actually he got the kid like a little dumbbell to start, lifting a little bit so that there'd be some sort of pop. He's like, we don't even know where to put it on your arm. It says to put it like, on the muscle. There's nothing there, kid. And and my rabbi in Providence was his last name was Gibber. His last name is Gibber, and Gibor in Hebrew means strong, like the strong one. Gibor is a strong man. So he actually was. I mean, he was a farm boy growing up and very strong, physically strong. So he used to crack jokes about this guy and his string bean arms. But but it's a chance to show off the guns. But it really is a chance to kind of you wrap it on. And there's something, one of the kids asked me the other day is, I'd never really spent time with like rabbinical high school kids. This is kind of a new experience for me where I'm working now. And I guess one of the kids was watching me put on my talis and my tefillin, and he's like, what are you thinking about? I said, sometimes I'm spacing out. I'm not really thinking, but I'm going through a routine. But I said, when I'm in the zone, like, when I put my talis on, like, I wrap myself, and I get this thought of, like, Hashem, I want to be wrapped in your world. There's so much craziness out there, right? And I use the talis as a chance to kind of like go into my space. And Hashem helped me kind of stay in that space so I can stay healthy and I can stay strong and I can stay connected, to keep myself focused. And like Larry's saying, how that, like, there's a bond that's created when you put it on. Sometimes I put that on, and when I put it on and I tighten it, and I'm like, all right, Hashem, I want to feel you all day today. And then I get that's some of the thoughts that I kind of go through as I do it. But it's it is something special. It's unique, and it's a chance to think about Egypt, a chance to think about a unique relationship that we have with Hashem. And it could take somebody 3 minutes. You've seen the Chabad guys do it, right? They ask you the question, are you Jewish? Oh, you put tefillin on today? No? Oh, let's do it. Are you willing to do it? Let's do it. And they got this like machine gun action, right? It's amazing, right? It's amazing how they do it, and that's, for some people that's very meaningful. Some people that's like, whoa, that was crazy. What just happened? So then you got to slow down a little bit. But it's, it doesn't take too long. And Mitchell, anything you wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to run into the rabbi introduced me to the same program, and I was able to get a pair of new tefillin, since my old ones that I'd been having since I was bar mitzvah age had also seen their better days. Amazing how sitting in a little velvet bag, they somehow get beaten up when they're in your drawer somewhere. You rarely use them. I have been struggling over the last number of years. I grew up as a conservative Jew, but not well trained, just blatant, not well trained. And while I had the tefillin, I rarely wore them. And only if I ended up somehow going to a Sunday morning minyan did I break them out to wear them. But something grabbed me within the last 6 months of just wanting to become closer with God, and I thought this might be a way to bridge that gap. And I never imagined that I'd be a guy that you'd see in the middle of the airport wrapping tefillin, but that has been me now twice in the last 3 months, right? Where I'm up early for a flight and the sun's not up yet, so can't wrap. So you get there, and once in the middle of the Memphis airport, and once in the middle of the Atlanta airport, and here I am wrapping tefillin, wondering whether I'm going to be attacked from behind while I'm doing it. But that was definitely a unique experience. And every morning now, when I do wrap, it is that opportunity to say the Shema and connect with God and say a few prayers for my father, my family, my children, myself, Jews of the world. It's where I don't think I ever took those opportunities, not daily anyway, to to thank Hashem and to talk to Hashem. So they now, yes, travel with me wherever I go, and it just even coming down here to Florida, I'm like, all right, got to remember to pack. So it it I enjoy it. It connects me. It connects me to our people, right? Over the millennia. I'm doing the same thing they did. And I only wish I had boys to be able to share this with. Not something I'm going to be sharing with my daughters.
Yeah, that's a that generational piece is amazing. Also, I remember one time where was I? Forgot. I'm trying to think where I was, and I was like, I'm not sure any other Jews in this entire airport right now, and and it was I put on tefillin, and I always put it on your secure. I tell a security guard like I want to let you know what I'm doing. Gonna go over there. I'm gonna pray, and I want to let you know I'm doing that in case anybody like comes over. If I'm at certain prayer parts, I'm not gonna really answer. So I just want to let you know, like in case like if someone gets nervous, don't worry, I'm not doing anything crazy. And I show them the boxes, and they're I haven't had any problems with it. At this point, most of the world knows about us, know about our crazy black boxes, and and our funny shawls. That's what we do. Look, plenty of people in the world do all kinds of fun religious things, and we can do ours too. And especially while we're traveling these days, you got to feel like you're not traveling alone. You could kind of put that on and connect with the different our people and beyond. It's a tremendous feeling.
So it's funny that the three of you both, all three spoke about, travel and flights and airports and whatnot, because the last time I put tefillin on was Chex Mix Day, Christmas Day, when I was flying from Vegas to Montreal. I was on a plane. Of course, who flies on Christmas Day? No, nobody
Jews,
but uh,
Jews and Chinese.
Jews and Chinese. That's right. So I'm on a plane, basically me and 10 other Jewish people, and that's basically it. And there was a younger, he must have been yeshiva, age. He's in his 20s, I guess, on the plane, right in the row right in front of me, and putting on tefillin, bright and early in the morning. And when he was done, as he was like getting ready to pack up, I just tapped him on the shoulder and I said, "Would you mind, you know, doing the mitzvah of helping me put on tefillin? I said, if you don't want to, it's fine, but I would love for the opportunity because you're doing it, and And I'm gonna say this, but and maybe this is gonna sound like a little bit of a cop out, but I think there's also something beautiful. I know you're supposed to do it every day, and I don't, obviously. But I think there's also something beautiful about not doing it every day. And when you do, it almost feels that much more special. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Like when I don't put it on Shabbos, and when it gets to the holidays, I don't put it on for a whole week. Yeah, there's something special when I come back to it.
Yeah.
Certainly.
It feels, that's something I've tried to do my entire life. Anytime I've been around anybody putting on their tefillin, even though I don't wear it every day, I always ask, and if they're willing, which I don't think anybody has ever told me no. But if they're willing, then they'll help me put it on. They'll help me I'll say some prayers and
Jason, if you had told me a year ago that I'd be wrapping tefillin every day, and that I'd be wrapping tefillin in airports, and I'd be bringing tefillin around the world, I would have laughed at you and said, "That's not who I am. That's not the type of Jew I am." And guess what? That's the type of Jew I am now. And it's amazing how 41 days can, like, just all of a sudden, that's now who you are.
But now I want to check. Now I want to check the tefillin in my little velvet bag. Now I'm curious. I certainly have my tefillin from my bar mitzvah, and I'm curious if it's in good shape or not.
Jason, I'll see some Vegas rabbis next week in New Jersey. So you let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. All right, I know we went a little longer than usual tonight, but I'm so glad
before we go, Rabbi, again, I want to thank you, Rabbi Noach, for introducing me to that program, and it's changed my life.
Well, I'm glad, and we can thank Rabbi Zions. We'll give him a shout out.
Yes, indeed.
I have to call him. Actually, his niece called me to give a class next week, so I got to call him. It's his call, I think. But yeah, amazing. And look, our study today should certainly be a zechus, be a merit for your dad and for your family to have the strength right now, and as you're going through this chapter over here, and everyone should be well. Whatever experience you're going to have with this storm that's coming, everyone should be well. If your team is still doing the football thing, they should do what they're supposed to do.
Go Pats.
And that's right. They should do what they're supposed to do. And I look forward to getting together. I think next week, I think we should be fine, because I think my conference is, I'm not sure if it's Thursday or not, Wednesday or not, Thursday. So I'll be in touch about next week. I think it should be okay, but if not, I'll let you know.
Has anybody heard from Jeffrey? Is he okay?
Yeah, I spoke to Jeffrey. We spoke this week. He told me he wasn't able to make it on. So
okay.
I think we also threw him for a curveball with this Wednesday change. Same thing with Will. I feel bad that Will was able to make it the other week, but it's a little challenging on Wednesday. So we'll